Thank you very much, Brother Aamir, for joining. And I think it has been a very long journey for you, just touching down from the airport this very morning and coming straight into the Bismillah Podcast room. It's good to have you today.
Thanks for having me. I feel really welcomed here, and thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome once again to the Bismillah Podcast by Adl Advisory. I'm your host, AbdulAkeem. Like every other time, today we are going to be looking into a new market, and we are going to be exploring what I consider the almost market, which resides in the West, and that is Australia. On paper, Australia is considered as a massive opportunity market. But when we look at the reality, when we have a Muslim population of about 3% of the country, which amounts to around 813,000 Muslim population, we are saying that this is not just a number, but it is largely dominated by young, affluent, and growing Muslim population. When we look at how the market looks like, the story is different and is entirely not reflecting of the population that we've seen, because less than 0.5% of that market has an Islamic asset and Islamic opportunity. Apart from that is the point that as of 2026, right now, Australia still does not have a fully licensed Islamic bank. We saw the main contender, that is the Islamic Bank Australia, having to hand over its license largely because of the need for financial stability or funding. On this note, we've also seen that on many occasions, we've seen the non-bank loan lenders and also the non-bank investment fund managers taking into the market, trying to provide services that basic Muslim population can access. To now discuss deeply around this reality, I'm going to be having with me Brother Aamir from Afiyah, who is a director right there in Afiyah. We are going to be discussing and navigating around the reality, the landscape, the opportunity, and also prospect that we can be looking forward to as we move into 2026 and the years ahead. Thank you very much, Brother Aamir, for joining. And I think it has been a very long journey for you, just touching down from the airport this very morning and coming straight into the Bismillah Podcast room. It's good to have you today.
Thanks for having me. I feel really welcomed here, and thank you very much.
Like I gave a short intro of the reality that we have previously, the only Muslim bank that we have having to hand over their license, which is largely because of the financial requirements for them to be able to legitimately do that business. Do you foresee that, given that background, do you foresee that we may eventually not have any Islamic bank that is fully fledged in Australia?
When it comes to the Islamic finance landscape or the Islamic population in Australia in general, as you mentioned, we've got quite a large Muslim population, and I mean it's nowhere near Canada or America, for example. However, our Muslim population is quite strong, and there's always been a need for a lot of financial services, products and services in the Australian market. And slowly there is some level of activity going on in terms of home loan products, fund management products. But you mentioned the Islamic Bank, and we don't have one at the moment. And I do believe that we did try getting one started for half a decade or so previously. However, the restrictions were more so around not having enough capital. And I think it's just that at the moment. I think there is a big demand for an Islamic bank in Australia. And I also think that we've got a lot of talented individuals who can run and manage that organization. And we've got Australians to have good experience in banking and financial services as well. And I think just the missing piece was just the capital, and unfortunately capital relates to a lot of other factors in an organization. And for something like a bank to be operating in Australia, it doesn't only require basic capital. It requires a lot of attention, a lot of human capital, and a lot of security, and essentially running an institutional organization, which I don't think will happen overnight. I think it would happen in a way where there is some kind of partnership or a joint venture or some sort, where you can get the expertise and the capital combined and build something to that way in that space.
Yeah, I'm going to just maybe flash more on one of those things that you mentioned about the fact that capital is not the only thing that is needed. We need more than funding. We need expertise. We need the right framework for the Islamic Bank to be able to operate. We also have the needed governance that is also, and again, the conviction from the end user, the demand side, to be aware that it exists, and also to trust the system of the bank to be able to transact and also put in their fund. That is also very critical. But looking at the fact that the first one could not fly and could not really give the demand size, the population, give them that confidence. Do you find, or do you think that there's going to be a trust going forward in terms of if any other one could able to come in to promote and fly? At the end of the day, do you think the customers are still going to have that trust, or they will still have that conviction that yes, this is going to be here for a long time?
Yeah, so I think because the Islamic Bank never launched, and it was, you can't say it was a failure, because, it's currently just on a pause at the moment. That's the way I'd like to see it. So I don't think it's impacted the community a lot. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the community were anticipating and waiting for it. But the reality is that the Muslim population continues to grow every year. So, you've got a lot of migrants that come from overseas. You've got the new generation of Muslims. And with all that, I think the demand will still continue. You'll still have a certain demand regardless of one failure or one who couldn't get it up and running or launch. And as I said, I mean, it's maybe because, the Muslim community wasn't ready for a bank, and that's why it didn't launch. So I think, it's just like any business or just like life. It's just a building block. So, you can learn from their mistakes, what they did right, what they did wrong, and then, try it again one way or another.
Yeah. So now looking at the fact that now the conversation is not about the bank, because it never launched. The conversation right now in reality in Australia is about the non-bank fund managers that are in the space trying to provide home financing to the Muslim population. And that is very one of those interesting divers to the reality of the Australian market, as it were. And when we look at the fact that these fund managers are present, but there's the concern that the fee for accessing such services by the Muslim Association in Australia or the Muslim community there is they consider it a bit on the high side compared to the conventional access to mortgages and the likes. And the fact that the fund managers that are Muslim corporations, it's a bit on the high side. What do you think could be responsible for that? And How do you think we could make this more affordable to the Muslim community?
Yeah, so I think it's very important to understand the difference between a bank versus a non-bank. So a bank is what you can call conventional, and non-bank, let's just assume, it's Islamic, right? But there's also non-bank, conventional, non-Islamic products available as well. But the reality is that if you go through the cheaper option, as you mentioned, which is going through a bank and getting your loan from a bank, the banks can essentially create money out of nothing, and they can lend that out to you. So that's why the cost to serve is a lot lower. So that's why you can get that better rate, so to speak. Whereas with non-bank lenders, because they're not banks, the way they work is essentially, without going into too much detail, but it's essentially there's always going to be an investor in the back end. So that investor isn't, you or I, or our families or anyone. It's more institutional investors or larger organizations. So there's always going to be those investors in the back end, as opposed to a bank where, it's only determined based on the bank's balance sheet. So there's not necessarily any investors. So it's assumed that the investor expects a certain return. So they price it based on that return. So that's why it is slightly higher. But currently within the space, the non-bank lenders that are Sharia compliant, they're quite competitive. I mean, it is slightly higher than conventional, but if you're looking at it from an affordability perspective, Muslims are still able to afford it. I mean, the majority of them, if they do qualify for a loan, they would still be able to afford it as well.
Interesting. I think that also it's about the dynamism of the market and also the peculiarity of the realities right now in Australia, and how operators are trying to even despite the terrain, they're trying to maneuver and find a way to provide that much needed Islamic finance services. But on the top of that, or just trying to look far and beyond, right? When we look at the fact that, like you mentioned, that that at the back of every non-bank fund manager, there is an unseen, perhaps, investment corporations at the back end, and in order to try to perhaps reduce the cost of access, do you see the need perhaps to look into maybe other jurisdiction, other regions, maybe like looking towards the east, like the Middle East, for access into the market to be able to bring in much needed fund at a much cheaper rate, which in turn can help to reduce the pressure that is currently existing within the pricing mechanism. How do you see, perhaps we have a mixed approach to access to funding by the fund manager? Excuse me.
Yeah, so I'm not too experienced with capital raising, so I can't really comment on the technical aspect of how they should do it or what kind of pricing model they should have. But what I can comment on is that if an international investor is looking into Australia to invest, they'll look at the fact that Australia does have a strong economy. They have a strong property market. There's obviously all investments have risk, but there's very little corruption. The law of the land is strong as well and favorable to both parties, investors and the receivers. But at the same time, I can't really comment on the best approach to make Islamic finance cheaper. But if this basic economics is this, that if you have a demand and you've got people investing into that demand, then the prices will go lower in the long run. So I mean, that's something that we can consider. But yeah, I'm not too
Yeah.
Sure.
So now looking at the fact that from your own perspective, being a director at Afiyah, which provide services around just like the non-bank fund managers, and your reality as to providing the services and also looking at the current challenges within the market. So what do you currently foresee in the near future, say another 5 years, as far as it's concerned with the progress and the challenges right now? How do you think we are able to make Islamic finance services more affordable or more accessible and also sustainable? Because sustainability is very key. And if you're not able to sustain, then it's very easy to leave the market.
Yeah, as how I see it is that if there is a large demand, then there should be more players in the market. So that's one of our current restrictions, because there's not many funders in the market. So if there was a more diversified approach to more diversified funders, then the opportunity for us as finance as a finance service company will allow us to give better options to our clients, but also those funders will compete for business as well, which will lower the rate as well. So I guess to answer your question, the problem we have is that there's not many lenders out there in the market that cater for the Muslim community. And the solution is that if there's more that come into the market, then they can compete on pricing in the long run.
So in reality, do you think the appetite for Islamic finance services products is there in the Muslim community, or you think they're just moving with the flow of the market?
No, I think there is a big demand in the Muslim community. As I mentioned, it's growing. You have a lot of migrants who are coming into Australia, and the migrants are all walks of life, from students all the way to skilled migrants as well. And then you've got the second, third generation of Muslims, and they will continue to grow. And there's always been that demand where a lot of the because we're only the first, second generation Muslims. A lot of the Islam is still instilled in us. So a lot of the younger youth, they're still religious. They still want to do right by our religion as well. So I think as the years go by, we'll see those kind of people be more. They'll want access to Islamic finance products, so it's definitely not in the decline, and I think it's it's going up, and also I guess more people in the market is good for competition, and it's good for it's good for awareness as well. So there's not only in the home loan space, there's you've got fund managers who specialize in property or private equity, and they allow Muslim communities get their money out from banks or under the beds into actual investments that are in many cases helping the community grow as well.
Yeah. So when we look at the aspect of regulation, do you see anything changing perhaps in terms of Islamic finance specifically? As much as Australia is very well structured, and the regulations are very, very strong and enabling, and also giving the right confidence to the investors. In terms of Islamic finance right now, do you see any regulation coming forth, or do you also see any need for perhaps Islamic governance structures to be put in place?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything that's going to be changing anytime soon. But there are certain structures in the market that are currently, that are operating that are Sharia, I wouldn't say Sharia compliant, but if you structure everything accordingly, they could be, easily Sharia compliant, such as managed funds, for example. In the home loan space, I don't hear much when it comes to any changes made to Islamic to cater for the Muslim community. However, I think I always go back to, as the population grows and the demand grows, I think there will be a bit more conversation that's happening to say, look, we might need to change this, we might need to adjust that, and inshallah, things might change from that regard.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
So, what do you look forward to? I mean, in the next 10 years, what do you see compared to what the market is right now, and also what's also considering a lot of pipeline projects that are coming up by different players in the market? Or what do you anticipate in the next 10 years?
Yeah, look, I look forward to what you said, the pipeline project. So I think it's becoming well diversified in the financial services space. You've got the home loan products, and there's certain organizations that are changing it, tweaking it, and adjusting it. And then you've got the managed funds, and the managed funds services or space is interesting because you can invest in property, you can invest in businesses, you can invest in technology or whatever it might be. So I can see that a lot of people will want those products in the market in the near future. And it's great to know that the financial service market is expanding. I mean, there's some people are getting into money exchange, for example, and slowly you'll notice that in the next 10 years it's no longer the 10 companies that will managing everything. There might be 15 or 50 or 60 smaller companies that will cater for our Muslim community.
Thank you very much, and that has been the very brief and very in-depth exploration of Islamic banking finance services in Australia. And just the take is very simple. As we are seeing different growth in different part of of the world as far as Islamic finance development is concerned, Australia is also trying its best to put its foot on the ground in trying to work out the best way to deliver Islamic financial products and services to the Muslim population in Australia. Given that, we are still seeing the need for, if you say, trial and error, or trying to see how to mirror growth in different parts of the world to help the population in Australia. The opportunities are there, yet untapped. The population is there and also growing, and the need to provide services that are not just valuable but also accessible is also growing. So that has been the talk with us today, and I've been discussing with none other than Brother Aamir from Afiyah. And again, you can watch this again on our YouTube. You can subscribe to that, and please try to like, share, comment. Perhaps you can also suggest which region you want us to go next. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.